Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a really close look at workplace rights and the very real boundaries of professional conduct. It's this fascinating area where the law meets everyday life, and we're going to explore exactly what happens when those boundaries get pushed to the absolute limit.
You know, we usually think of workplace law as pretty dry, strictly procedural stuff, right? But I've got to ask you, what happens when an unfair dismissal claim goes entirely off the rails? Because while there are absolutely vital laws out there protecting workers, the tribunal systems built to enforce them sometimes become the stage for some truly bizarre human behavior.
But before we get to the wild stories, let's just grind ourselves in why these systems actually exist. Groups like the Australian Workplace Discrimination Representatives, or AWDR for short, they handle incredibly serious matters. We are talking about unfair dismissal, sexual harassment, general protection disputes, toxic workplaces, and workplace bullying. These are absolutely vital protections for Australian workers. In fact, to put the scale of this into perspective, AWDR has supported over 16,000 clients navigating these highly stressful, legitimate disputes over the last 30 years.
Okay, let's dive into this. Under the Fair Work Act, unfair dismissal is officially defined as when an employee is dismissed from their job in an unjust manner without a valid reason or explanation. It's a crucial safety net, and it's designed to protect everyday people from losing their livelihoods unfairly. But what happens when that safety net gets used as a hammock for a workplace grudge?
Well, that brings us right to Section 1, the plumber's crack dispute, specifically the 2026 case of Anthony Davitkov versus Woolworths Group Limited.
Okay, get this. Mr. Davitkov was a casual worker at a Woolworths store down in Victoria. During a totally standard shift, a colleague pointed out that the cleft of his bottom was protruding from his trousers and apparently rudely suggested he cover it up. In response to this, the worker became very upset, claiming his feelings were hurt. So he actually lodged a Fair Work claim accusing Woolworths of violating general protections, and he demanded a monetary settlement. Now, keep in mind, and the Fair Work Commission specifically noted this was remarkably his fifth tribunal claim in just 2 years.
So how did this all break down? The employee argued his hurt feelings and demanded compensation, but there was a pretty fundamental flaw in his unfair dismissal claim. He was never actually dismissed. Yep, he just kept doing his shifts after lodging the claim, and then eventually he just stopped showing up and completely abandoned his role.
The Fair Work Commission literally asked in its decision, "What dismissal?" That was what Woolworths wanted to know. The commission threw the case out entirely, slamming it as a speculative cash grab and just a complete nuisance. They lamented that frivolous claims like this have little to lose, but they place all this undue pressure on the tribunal, and worse, they add to the wait times for workers who have actually been unfairly dismissed.
Now, if you thought that was bizarre, wait until you hear about Section 2, the 1,800-page email blitz. The 2025 case of Peter Koff versus Glenburn Investments.
1,800. Think about that for a second. After lodging his unfair dismissal claim, the Fair Work Commission gave this Sydney hospitality worker strict, explicit directions to only communicate with his former employer's legal representative. Instead of doing that, he subjected the employer and their lawyer to an 1,800-page document trail of what he called satirical and abusive messages. He literally admitted out in the open that this was a form of psychological endurance testing.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how much he escalated things. 205. That is the number of emails he sent to the company's lawyer in a single week. Dozens more were sent directly to the CEO's sons, and individual staff members, completely defying the Fair Work Commission's strict, direct orders.
The content of these emails? Totally bizarre. He called the employer's lawyer a lioness of Greek origin and claimed his own language danced between absurdity and genius. He literally declared that no narcissist survives being out-reasoned by someone who weaponized emojis, memes, and tone. He tried to argue he was just forcing the opposition to wade through hundreds of pages of nonsense just to figure out if it was nonsense or prophecy.
But, the satire very quickly took a much darker, frankly terrifying turn. The workers started sending emails to the CEO and his sons featuring explicit threats of physical violence. He included an image with violent text stating that if they stepped against him, it would be a double tap to the head, and warned, "When I strike, it's not a fight, it's a funeral."
Unsurprisingly, this spectacular backfire led straight to the commission completely terminating his unfair dismissal claim. At the hearing, where, by the way, the worker offered absolutely no explanation for his conduct, they found his emails were nonsensical and threatening. His conduct was deliberate and vexatious. It was designed to cause distress, and ultimately, his behavior was plainly unreasonable under the Fair Work Act. So not only did he lose his claim, but the employer also pursued him for legal costs.
Let's move to and see how this builds. Section 3, how to claim correctly. Navigating the Fair Work Commission, because we've definitely seen how absolutely not to behave.
First off, we need to understand what the tribunal actively filters out. A vexatious claim is basically one filed without a sound legal or factual basis, and it's often used just to harass an employer or force a quick financial settlement. The Fair Work Commission firmly rejects these to protect the integrity of the whole system. If you want justice, your claim has to be rooted in actual facts, not just a desire for some workplace revenge.
So how do you actually file a claim correctly? Well, AWDR outlines a very structured professional approach. Step 1. Get expert advice early so you can objectively assess your situation. Step 2 is absolutely critical. You must observe the strict 21-day limit from the day your dismissal takes effect, or you risk losing your right to claim altogether. And Step 3. Communicate professionally and follow all tribunal orders. As we literally just saw, weaponizing memes and sending 1,800 pages of abuse is a fast track to getting your case thrown out.
So the crucial point is that you don't have to navigate this highly procedural system all by yourself. The Australian workplace discrimination representatives are workplace relations specialists. They're not lawyers, and they're driven by a social justice agenda to help everyday Australians. They offer 24/7 support, no-win, no-fee options, and a free first consultation. It's all about ensuring that everyday employees have access to corporate-level representation, but without that giant corporate-level price tag.
Which brings us to the final thought I really want to leave you with today. If your workplace rights are breached, will your claim be a pursuit of justice or just a cautionary tale? Understanding your rights is super empowering, but understanding the real boundaries of professional conduct is what actually wins cases. Be smart, seek out that expert guidance, and always respect the process. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.